I'm sure you're not trying to
refusing to disappear.
It would clearly be an abuse for a president to allow the presidential unit, protection unit, to, as it were, on the clock, use its to go and investigate a private theft. I mean, there could be no doubt about that, surely.
If you did so mala fide, as required under the rules, then what also there could be no doubt about, whatever quibbles we may have as lawyers about the correctness or incorrectness of the Section 89 panel, the true question is members of Parliament acting rationally with the information at their disposal.
Yes, now I just want to find out for what there was and wasn't evidence. The next thing is, it seems to me to be common cause that no case of theft was ever opened in respect of this amount, which totaled in rands about 8.7 million.
Well, what we know is that he says, the president, I'm not acting for him, he says that he reported it to his head of security.
Yes.
And it was up to the head of security to open the case.
The head of a unit which is there to protect the security of the president, that has nothing to do with the loss of the president's personal money. That, I think, we must be, or at least the panel could assume that President Ramaphosa was aware of that distinction.
Well, I'm not sure I want to accept that he should be assumed to have been aware that if he reported to his head of security, it will not end up with the police. I don't think that is a fair assumption.
Well, it was common cause several years after the event that there was no case opened.
Yes, that is true.
Just put yourself in the position of the panel, or you yourself. Perhaps 8.7 million rand is not so much money to council these days, but imagine, I'm sure I'm being facetious. Imagine you had lost 8.7 million rand.
Let me not respond. No, Justice Rogers, I mean, this is unfair, actually. I know that it's not, but it's really unfair in a matter of this public importance to make a joke like that and then to pass it on.
Let me then continue. 8.7 million rand, if, just as a matter of common sense, if a person loses 8.7 million rand, they would want to know who the investigating officer is and has it been reported to the police. Is there a case pending? And it's common cause that there wasn't.
Yes. But what is the question then for the issue that I'm dealing with in my address?
I'm trying to just see the totality of circumstances.
Yes.
Then we have, and the panel paid a lot of attention to this, the source of the foreign currency, because it did, in regard to charges 2 to 4, it was not merely the fact that there wasn't a report to the under the Prevention of Corrupt Activities Act. It was the finding of seriousness was that that was a deliberate decision because the president was wanting to keep secret the source of the money. That's the background to where the panel was coming from. Now, in that context, it seems to me it was the president's version, based on what Mr. Ndlovu told him, that an unknown person, who is then identified as Mr. Hamaz, comes to the farm on Christmas Day, just happened to be carrying in cash $580 million, $580,000.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and then?
And then he concludes a transaction not with the farm manager, not with the man who runs the buffaloes, Mr. van Willich. He strikes a deal to buy 20 buffalo from the lodge manager.
Yes.
And hands over $580,000 and gets this receipt that we've seen. And then the buffaloes stay on the farm and are never taken.
Yes, I'm still trying to work out where, in relation to the members of the National Assembly, the criticism is.
Well, if there was sufficient evidence of the various matters I'm putting to you, then one might say that the independent panel could legitimately come to the view that in relation to charges 2 to 4, there was sufficient evidence of serious misconduct, sufficient in context to be tested for veracity, not sufficient to convict, but sufficient to go to an impeachment committee. That's what their function is.
No, I submit no, because they did not actually make that finding. What would actually happen if we got where you are, Justice Rogers, is you would have to fundamentally rewrite the conclusions of the panel. That's why I was asking the court to have regard to there are actually several pages, 128, paragraph 204, 137, paragraph 238, 138, paragraph 239, 145, paragraph 264. It's so clear in those paragraphs that what they thought they were doing is to establish prima facie evidence based on information.
Well, we will read the whole report. You'll recall, I think, the acting Deputy Chief Justice put to, I think it might have been to Mr. Budlander, certain earlier paragraphs which appeared to indicate what the panel understood. But I accept, bear in mind, the panel here says, even after hearing the President's version, taking into account what he says, this is not just yet unanswered evidence. Together with his evidence, we take it that there is prima facie evidence. But if you say that that was the wrong test...
Yes. So, in fact, I think we are together, the criticism. If you want me to comment, let me know, Justice Rogers, if you don't want me to comment on the two paragraphs that Justice Madlanga referred to.
Perhaps let me just finish and then you can come back and comment on those two paragraphs. Yes. We then find that the $580,000 is not put into a safe, and I would have thought more importantly, it is not put into a bank where it would have earned interest at about 2,300 Rand per day. The first thing anybody who receives 8.7 million Rand wants to do is to make sure it goes into their money market account. You don't leave that much money, sorry, I'm now speaking as a matter of common sense. You don't just leave that money either in a safe or under a sofa. I'm not talking about, it's common cause that it wasn't banked and it was hidden in a sofa.
Yes. Well, the question is, what is the role of the members of Parliament in relation to what the President knew at the time?
Well, if they read the whole report, because the structure of the report is before the committee starts dealing with the individual charges, which starts at paragraph 181,
yes,
where it starts with charge 1. It's had what seems, in the context of its report as a whole, to be a very important chapter 12 that runs from page 89 through to 173, including the conclusion in paragraph 171. And that's all to do with the source of the money. And it is clear from the panel, at least, believed on the information that had been submitted to it that it did not accept that the money had come from the sale of buffalo.
Yes. Just
now,
sorry.
And then, having considered the individual charges, it then in chapter 15 deals with the seriousness of the violation and the misconduct. And it is at that point that it ties in chapter 12 with charges 2, 3, and 4. To reach a conclusion, call it a prima facie conclusion, yes, that the reason why there wasn't a report to the DPCI and the reason why a case wasn't opened and the reason why General Roeder, as it were, off books, conducted an investigation into the theft was because the source of the money was not legitimate. There was an attempt being made to conceal that was the case.
Yes.
Now, I assume you accept that if there was, let's just say, prima facie evidence of that